Well, thank you very much for having me. I was really, I thought this course was a brilliant idea, and I love that being paired with Kate Johnson and FreshBooks because her bookkeeping side hustle is just fabulous. And I really love that we all can kind of bring our different communities together for events like this. I think I know most of the people who are already here. But if you haven't met me before, my name is Alicia Pollock, and my community is the Royal Wise Owls. And so you see owls everywhere. It's actually an acronym made up by Jennifer Diamond, that stands for the On-Demand Web-Based Learning Solutions, and that's our platforms. Mariette approached me with the idea for this webinar, and it's not one like I've ever done before in my entire career. And her concept was, what if somebody comes to you as a bookkeeper in December and says, "Hey, I want you to do my bookkeeping for this year so that I can pay taxes, but I haven't done anything yet this year." It's a whole different thing to do bookkeeping properly throughout the year and be already tax ready with your books. But it's something completely different when somebody comes up to you, shows up on your doorstep and says, "Well, I want you to do my books for the whole year." And well, how do you approach that? Because it could be, are you going to recreate an entire year with all of your data? Or do you just want to like slam things into buckets and get it done so that you have a starting point? And so last week, Kate took the approach of, well, here's my whole year of data. How do I quickly get it into the right buckets so that we can run our reports and hand them off to an accountant? So I'm actually going to mirror exactly what Kate did, or pretty darn close to what she did. It's going to be, a little bit different first because QuickBooks is different from FreshBooks, but the concept is all exactly the same. So the thing that I want to really, really emphatically enforce is what I'm going to show you is not our approach to bookkeeping. It's not our best practice. What this is really quick down dirty. How do I get a year of data into my QuickBooks as fast as possible? And so that's the approach that we're going to take.
Yes.
Mariette, did I say that well?
Yeah, no, you did. And I want to share something that I think is really important. But what I have done when I've been approached with this is, first of all, I have to understand the business owner. Are they cash based? If they're cash basis, then this is very easy to do. And it's not only a band-aid, it's actually a catch up so we can start doing things very successfully as of January 1st. So it's a really good strategy. If they're an accrual based business owner, then you need to have some caveats and explain to them, yeah, we could do some catch up, but then we may need to go back and at the very minimum, put in your invoices, put in your bills as of the end of the year. So they still have a very clean start as of January 1st. So what I want to just make sure it's clear, both for Kate's session and Alicia's session, is both for the business owner watching this and the bookkeeping professional. This is a communication. You need to make sure both of you understand why you're choosing this option, and then do things smarter and faster, right? Why not? And now I will pass it back to Alicia.
Yeah. This is a great way of picking up new clients for sure. So Marriott provided you with a handout that's kind of a step-by-step guide to the things that we are going to do. And so it's the framework. It's not everything, obviously, it's just a one pager, but it's going to involve connecting your bank accounts, or updating or uploading the data manually, or importing, just however you're going to get your data into the system, and then going through the data and comparing it, and then and entering it, and then doing some drill downs into your reports. So she's provided you with this framework, which is loosely how I'm going to present today. I'm using the same scenario that Kate had used about a food safety consultant, and I pre-created this QuickBooks file to get it up and running. And with QuickBooks, for what we're going to do, you could even do this in simple start, because all we're doing is just very, very basic data entry. And then for 2026, for next year, once you know what the client's requirements are, then you know if you can move it up, if you need to move up to essentials or plus, or you can kind of think of this as a needs assessment because you're getting to know their data really, really quickly. And then you can also advise them, well, hey, if you used classes, then you would be able to parse the information out into different revenue streams, for example. So here we are in a blank, empty file. And the first thing that I always do is go up to the settings in the upper right-hand corner and then go into account and settings. Now, because we're doing quick and dirty, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here going into all of the different things, but you want to at least get the company info in and get all of that basic information and go down to let's see, down to the sales section and maybe dial in some of the things under sales and expenses. But this is kind of really when you're really doing the bookkeeping is when you would go in and turn on and off the different features. But I didn't want to start without at least letting you know that accountant settings is here and waiting for you. The number one thing is down under advanced. The very, very last one in the whole settings is change your inactive to 3 hours instead of 1 hour, and then make that your goal to be done by that time. Okay, so account and settings for the purposes of what we're doing today. I don't think I have anything specific that I want to do here. Just know that first thing that I do is go there. The next thing that we need to do is dial in the chart of accounts that when you create a new QuickBooks file, it's going to pre-create some of the different accounts that you need, and you can get there either by the easiest way of going there is actually to click on my app, or I'm sorry, all apps right here, and then on accounting. And then what that does is, oh, it's not taking me in there. We want to go to the chart of accounts right here. And in fact, I would even put a bookmark in front of it so that I can get there super quickly just by hovering over bookmarks. And there's my chart of accounts. When you set up a new QBO file, what your chart of accounts looks like could be completely different depending on some of the choices that you make along the way when you're setting it up or whatever chart of accounts they're testing at the time. And I have seen this chart of accounts vary from hundreds of accounts with one of everything that you could possibly need, all the way down to just the very basics of the dead minimum accounts that it's required in order to run. So you have to come in here and get it at least set up for the basics of what your person's going to need. And so I went ahead already and I added in the bank account, the checking account that we're going to use for today. And so when I name it, I always name my account with the bank. Whoop, I didn't want to do that. With the bank name and then whether it's checking or savings and then the last four digits. That usually gives me all the information that I need. I hate just saying checking and I don't like seeing like Wells Fargo um, uh, business savings fundamentals account. I don't want to see all the stuff. So I keep it to the business name, what kind of account, and the last four digits. I also went ahead and I added in a credit card. So we've got the Citibank credit card right here. So this is the first conversation that you need to have with your person is what accounts do they have? But don't just take what they give you at face value. Do they have a PayPal account? Do they have a Venmo account? Do they have an Apple Card account? Do they have a credit card that they haven't that they don't use that's sitting in a drawer? And oh, by the way, it's got a couple annual charges on it. So you have to not just go with the basics of what they tell you. Make sure that you've done your due diligence. Do they have any loans? Do they have any lines of credit? What are all the different accounts that you are going to need? And it's pretty likely as you start putting in the transactions from the checking account or the credit card, some of that will surface up when they do a transfer. You're like, well, what was that transfer to? So know that that's why when I do cleanup work, for example, I know that they talk about value pricing and value billing when you're doing your bookkeeping. But when I'm doing this kind of work, I sometimes include my hourly rate as a benchmark for it because you could scope it out and you could think that you're done. And then all of a sudden, the last five transactions open up a whole new can of worms. Oh, by the way, they have a Home Depot credit card and a Lowe's credit card that you didn't know about. So when you are specking one of these out, like I said, you want to charge for this more than you would charge for a whole year's worth of bookkeeping so that you have the resources and you don't get caught short. Okay, so in this chart of accounts, you want to find out what loans they have, and you can add in their loans. So I've got, here's a line of credit, here's long-term business loans, and I can use the accounts that are already in here, or I can rename them so that they suit the names for what we actually need. So you have lots of different options that way. Um, I'm going to go ahead and just use the default chart of accounts as it came in and then put things in those existing buckets. Um, but this is a good conversation to have with the client to make sure that at least for the history, they've got the basics of what they need. And then for next year, you can really hone it in, dial it in, uh, inactivate the ones that you don't need, add the ones that you do.
I'm just curious, Alicia, at this point, because obviously, you're getting, the business owner is getting themselves together if they're trying to do DIY this, or a bookkeeper is sitting with the business owner and be like, okay, we're about to go ahead and start doing importing. And so let's make sure your chart of accounts looks good. I love, by the way, that you started with the chart of accounts. Thank you so much. Like that's
Yeah.
always how I start. Um, Ideally, would you ask them to pull up their bank statements to go ahead and see what kind of transactions? Like, how do you get them thinking about what's money coming in and what's money going out? I'm just curious.
Sure. I would start with what you know as an expert. What are the basic things that every single business has? Make sure that the chart of accounts that came up represents them, just in case, again, you got that short chart of accounts that doesn't have anything, so that you know, even if you just use the accounts that are on the standard Schedule C, like those are the dead minimum categories that
Got it.
any company needs, even if it's an S corp or an LLC, the Schedule C at least has the down and dirty major categories. So you
I
can
love that.
build it off of your resulting tax statement for what you know you're going to need. But then, like you said, once we start using the banking fee and entering the transactions, you'll figure out what else you need as you go.
Perfect. Okay, I love the idea of just keeping it simple. There's sole prop, like Schedule C accounts at the bare minimum.
Hmm.
Perfect. I love that.
Okay. Then the other thing that you might want to do from the get-go is create the products and services list. And so that's under sales and get paid right down here. Now, if we are doing down and dirty work, you may wind up just wanting to put everything to sales of product income or sales and just keep it simple for right now. But you may also want to start the process of having of making some of the sales receipts. So I want to show you when I'm doing this the best of both worlds. So what I'm actually going to do, okay, I do have to do it from here, is I am going to add in some of the products and services that they would charge customers for so that you can see it as part of the setup, and then we'll decide on a case by case basis once we get in there what we're going to do with them. So because this is a food safety consultant, one of the things that they do are site visits. And so I'm going to type in site visits right there. And I actually want to put put in a category as well. So I'm going to start by putting in a category called consulting income. And then inside the category of consulting income, one type of consulting is a site visit. And I'm just going to copy site visit from there and then paste it down here. And then I would put in what my rate is for a site visit. So let's say it's $500 and I want that to go into my sales income category. Okay. In fact, if I wanted, this is where I could even make a category called consulting income. so that I have everything that is consulting income going into a consulting income type. So this could be done when you're looking at the chart of accounts. I'm doing it kind of on the fly in here right now,
And I
as
wanted
I'm
to just share
thinking it.
something really quickly, Alicia, because
Hmm.
and this is really important because I mentioned it in Kate's session and I want to mention it in yours clearly. Again, when we let's speak for myself. When I talk about catch-up accounting, it's not like super, down and dirty. Like you're thinking through what that business owner will eventually need, but obviously you're not going to put in, tons of hours. But things like this, what Alicia's saying, like clearly you don't just want this income transaction to go in a bucket called sales. That doesn't even help if you were looking at tax ready books at year end for catch-up purposes. You should at least create a few buckets to do a little bit of high level analysis. And so I like that she's saying that because when I tell you I do a catch up, I wouldn't just throw everything in sales. That's not beneficial to anyone, and I wouldn't even want to charge for that, right? So of course you want to think through at least some basic areas where you could shine and say, "Hey, yeah, I know these were tax ready books just to get ready for taxes." But check out what we've already done. And that's where, with a business owner, they can say, oh, that's why it's important for me to understand income streams and to understand that my business needs to be looked at differently. So take a few minutes more, like Alicia's doing, to think through those type of strategies. Again, you're not going to go all in because you probably don't have that budget for this engagement, but consider those extra little, I call them delighters, because that's going to really shine when you have that meeting with the business owner. Business owners may not think about this, but a bookkeeper engaged with a business owner, I'm really hoping you are thinking about these extra, nuances. So I appreciate, Alicia, you bringing those up.
Absolutely. And so here you can see now I'm not totally explaining everything that I'm doing, but you can see kind of the process of making at least some surface categories for me um, to use. Um, and so I'm making a couple different things for consulting income, and I want to make one more for crisis management so that we have just a few things to bill for. So this is really helping the owner, like you said, think about their business. What is it that's important for them to track? What are they doing? What do they want to charge for, and how much? And so let's actually put in another one here for crisis management. And so this is again a food safety consultant and the things that a food safety consultant would charge for. So I'm making consulting income and crisis management income. Now, like I said, when you're doing down and dirty work, you might not um, even use these. And so this is a step that could come later, but as you're thinking about the process, that's what you would do and how you would do it. Okay, so the next step, once we've got the settings and the chart of accounts, and we've decided whether we're going to use products and services or just dump everything into income. And so, just to reinforce that, when you're looking at your chart of accounts, at least make income categories for the kinds of income that they're doing. So, not just the sales and sales of product income that are generic with it, consulting income, crisis management, whatever their general categories are, that will be useful even if you don't do products and services at that stage. Okay. All right. The next step is to start getting the data into your QuickBooks. And the easiest way to do that is through the banking feed. And so that's under all apps, under accounting, and then in bank transactions right here. I live in this screen, so I'm definitely going to bookmark it. And so now I'm in the bank transactions screen. And this will come up blank the first time you're here. And in general, the best practice is that you go up to link account and you say, well, who is my bank with? Oh, I'm with Bank of America. And then you sign in and you use the owner's login to put in their username and their password, and you should have the owner do this. They shouldn't be giving you that information. I generally do this with this step with the owner over a Zoom is usually what I do, and we go through and we fill in all of their bank accounts and we map all of the bank accounts. Now, when we log into Bank of America, I can't do this live, unfortunately, but what happens in this next step is it gives you a list of all of the bank accounts that are at that institution. And what you want to have is have those. Let me go back to my chart of accounts again. And here's a cool tip, by the way. I'm going to right click on chart of accounts and open it in a new tab so that I can keep using it and go back and forth between my screens. In the chart of accounts, I do find that it helps sometimes to pre-create these. You can create them on the fly when you are connecting the banking feed, but if you know what to expect, then when you get to the bank and their list of accounts, you know, oh, these three are the business ones. All these others are either personal or other companies. And the only ones you connect are the ones specific to the business. No personal accounts, no subsidiary companies. You know, if they have holding accounts for property management, yeah, don't connect them. It's just the ones for this particular tax form only. And then it'll give you a page where you can map it to the bank accounts. And so we would tell it, okay, this one is for Relay, or this one is for this checking account. And then after I did the Bank of America, I would go in, and in this case, we have a Citibank credit card. So I would go again, link the account, go pull up Citibank and go log into Citibank and then make all the connections. So I would in that session have them log in, and that will give me this big list across here of all of the business accounts.
And Alicia, just FYI, so one of the
Mm-hmm.
resources that they're going to get is me actually showing him that. So, of course, when we show you the linking, we need to blur things because we're usually using our own accounts to demo that. And so, one of the resources will actually be showing, demonstrating how I've truly connected the account. So, you're going to see like there'll be parts where I'll blur or I'll say, okay, now let's move on because I don't want you to see
Hmm.
my private information.
Right.
But you will actually see in real life what Alicia just explained in the resources. So I just wanted to
Okay.
mention that.
Excellent. And I also do have a 3 hour class just on the banking feeds. And in that class, we talk about all of this, and I do demonstrate real bank accounts and connecting and all of that in that process. Okay, now when you are connecting these, one of the questions it's going to ask you is how far back do you want to go? Some banks will let you go all the way back to January 1st. That's exactly what you want in this instance. Other banks will only let you go back 90 days. So go back as far as you can to the beginning of the year if possible. If not, do the 90 days. If you do just the 90 days, what you will also need to do is go to the bank's website and export the transactions into a CSV file or get the bank statements for it, and then you can use those to upload the rest of the history. And I'm going to do an upload in a minute to show you what that looks like because I'm not going to connect to a real account. And alternatively, if you have a bank that does not connect at all, what I'm about to show you is your solution for that.
Very exciting. And by the way, I also show that. I show, we're going to see it with Alicia, which I'm glad because she's probably going to show us the latest and greatest. But the resource will also show all options connect, import, and the PDF I've never done before using QuickBooks. So I'm excited to see. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. That's a new thing that Alicia will mention in regards to the PDF option.
Okay. So this is an example. Oh, that's weird. Of what a CSV looks like. Now, mine's pulling up in Apple numbers, but this would normally pull up in Excel. And so what you want to do is get the data going all the way back to January. And the dead minimum information that you need is the date of the transaction, the payee or the description from the banking feed, and then the amount. And you can see here that this one has both the money in and the money out all in one column. Some banks banks will have multiple columns, and then you'll have the in and the out in two separate ones. But this is your goal. This is what you want to get, whether it's the full year or whether it's just the missing transactions from January 1st to your import date. Okay, so that's what that essentially looks like. The You may have to go into the CSV file in order um, to edit it so that it's in a format that you need. One other thing to know is that when you are connecting the bank accounts through the normal link account button right here, it will always make an opening balance equity entry, which is the starting balance as of the day before you start the file. And if you're going back to January 1st, that's perfect because it's December 31st balance. But if it's only going back 90 days, you're going to need to delete that automatic entry. And sometimes it's hard to find because it's also reconciled. And so if you go to reconcile, your reconciliation is off. So if you only do a 90-day import, you have to take out that extra transaction. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you how to import. So in this case, I'm doing an import. So instead of the link account button, I'm uploading from file. And then I go in and find it. So I'm doing the checking account first. So I say that right there. And if I have a statement, I can upload it. Otherwise, I'm just going to take that CSV file. Now, notice, by the way, that in the supported formats, you have a lot of different formats. Most of these are export formats out of the bank. So if you can export directly to a QBO file, that's beautiful. What's not on here is Excel. If you have an Excel export, you have to save it as a CSV file before you can do this step. Okay, so now I'm going to take that file that I just showed you and I'm going to drop it in the upload box. And so now it asks me to map it. Is the first row of my file a header? Yes. How many columns show the amounts? Just one column, could be two columns. What's the date format? Usually you can just pick the first one off the top. Then it wants to know what are your column headers. So these are the columns that you have. So my date, my description, and my amount. If yours has a check number, you can add the check number column as well. I don't have one in this one, so I click continue. Now here are all of the transactions that were on that spreadsheet. And so transfer from personal is money in, law firm is money out. So that's perfect. If you're doing American Express, it frequently comes in flipped the other way. And so there is an option here for reverse all values, which would say that these are the money out, these are the money in. So some credit cards may have it reversed. So you can eyeball it and decide. But this is, in fact, what I want. This is money in, this is money out. So I'm perfect. Now I will accept all of these, or I will go in and look and make sure if there's anything here I don't need, like maybe there's a sum down at the very bottom. Hey, look, here's some totals, so I don't need my totals, so I'm going to uncheck those and then continue. It wants to import 81 fields. That is a yes.
Alicia, as that's going, I have a question for you. In regards
Yeah.
to best practices,
Mhm.
do you ever suggest that they put it in two columns so it's clear what the debit and the credit is, or does it
You
not
don't
matter
need
to
to.
you?
It doesn't
Okay.
matter. Yeah.
Okay.
We don't want to have to take extra time to do this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So now what you see is it is 81 transactions in the checking account, and I can see the spend in the spent column and the received is in the received column. And the first thing I'm going to do is just make sure that I've got my columns correct, and I do. So this one is hunky dory.
Hey, really quickly, if
Hmm.
because this happened to me many, many times where I've had to go back and fix it for business owner. If it was reversed, what do we do to fix that?
If it's reversed, then what I would do is I would just click on all of these and then exclude them right here, and then either do the import again or edit the CSV for whatever I need and then import it again.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing for the credit card. I'm going to drop that down. I'm going to upload from file. I'm going to change this to the city credit card. and I'm going to drop my credit card data in, and it will go ahead and parse it. So same settings, same date format, everything here is the same. Continue, double check. Okay, expenses are out. And so that's looking good. I will accept them all. I'll look down at the bottom and see if I have any extra lines. I don't, and then continue. And I'll import those 41.
And for a credit card, it actually, even though it feels odd, it does make sense for there to be a positive because that's when you're either paying or you may be getting a refund back from an expense. So just kind of, this is where you kind of pay a little bit more attention, both from a bookkeeper's perspective to make sure it makes sense. But it's a great, quick learning lesson for the business owner to also look at it and be like, but why does it look like that? Let me explain it to you and then move
Exactly.
on.
Yeah. All right. Now, as far as actually managing the banking feed, I'm not going to include any of that information. Again, I have a 3-hour class on what to do from here. So I'm just really going into the quick and dirty about how to manage these. So I'm going to start with the checking account. And the one thing that I notice when I'm scrolling around in here is, oh, I didn't notice it there. I noticed it over here that I have a couple of these pairs. So this is a credit card payment, and it sees that money in on the 5th. There is also money out from the Relay checking account. So on this one was March 5th, this one was February 5th. And if I go and look over here on those days, it's actually interesting that I don't see the pairing. Oh, it's because it's on screen two. Let's flip this the other way. I'm going to flip the dates from newest to oldest, and there's the pairs. So it's smart enough to know that if money in and money out are on the same day in two different accounts, that the two of those really are a transfer or a credit card payment. So I can go ahead and post both of those two, and then they will now have disappeared from this list. So because I paired them, they're gone on the other one. So the first thing that I always do is I look for anything that I can just manage. Now, if this was real life, it would, and you had other transactions in there, a lot of these things would pair. But this is our quick and dirty year of data blitz. So there's nothing here. So the next thing that I want to do is look for repeated transactions. And I always start from my knowns. Anything I can wipe off that I know what it is, I get it out. Instead of sorting by date, I'm going to actually sort by bank description. And I also want to make sure that bank description is what's showing here. There's a setting under the gear for show full bank description, which I absolutely love. And also make date field editable, which is important if this was real bookkeeping and you had checks and you didn't want the date the check cleared, you wanted the date the check was written. So I turn those on. You are also seeing extra red things on mine, and that's because I'm using Right Tool, Hector Garcia's plugin, and I didn't turn it off for this demo. And so anything that you see that's red is from Right Tool, which I love, and I'll give you a discount link to their pro version at the end of all of this. All right, so here I am, and I have now sorted these either A to Z or Z to A. And instead of sitting, so here I've got Gusto fees. So those are my payroll fees. And instead of sitting here and saying, okay, this is Gusto, and well, so the first, let me back up. Let me show you how to put in an entry, and then I'll show you how to automate it. So I don't have any vendors in. I do want to know who I paid. So this is Gusto. I'm going to add them in as a vendor. I don't need to put in any of the address and other information about them. Again, quick and dirty, not the real bookkeeping part. And so now I've got Gusto, and this is Gusto fee would be a payroll fee. So I have a payroll expenses, but I don't have a payroll fees specifically. And heading back to my chart of accounts and looking at my payroll section, I want to at least throw in the best practice here that right now my payroll expenses only has wages underneath it. And what I don't want to do is have um, have wages and put all the fees up in payroll expenses. So I'm going to make a new account and I'm going to add payroll fees to separate them out.
And I love that because again, quick and dirty doesn't mean incorrect bookkeeping or accounting. I really want to make sure everyone watching this, both the business, mostly the business owner, but a bookkeeper should know this already. But catching up on accounting doesn't mean incorrect bookkeeping or accounting. So, for example, this data needs to eventually go onto a tax return. The payroll needs to match to quarterly payroll reports and to the final W-2s and W-3s. So you don't just lump everything in a payroll expense account. You need to separate payroll processing, wages, payroll taxes. So thank you, Alicia, for doing it like this because this is part of catch-up accounting. That's why, again, to Alicia's point and mine, you do charge, a value for this because you're not just throwing everything in a bucket. That's not valuable to the business owner and it's not valuable to you because now you're going to have to fix all that and it's not going to match the tax return. So
Right.
thank you for
Okay.
showing that.
Yeah, I also noticed that payroll taxes is down under taxes paid, but I like that in pay with my payroll. So I'm going to actually take the extra time and change the sub account from taxes paid to payroll expenses to group all of that together so that I have a payroll section that actually has meaning. Okay, now when I go back to the banking tab, I actually have to refresh my screen because I made changes in one tab and now I'm in another tab. So I have to go wake up this tab to have all the new stuff. And so now I can go into this Gusto fee and I can say it's from Gusto and I can say that it's for payroll fees. Okay, and I can go ahead and just post that one and I have my first one in. The good news is that once you do that, it should start recommending or recognizing, and I can use the categorization history right down here and say, oh, this is payroll fees, and I can assign it that way and then post it. I can also do these in bulk, and I'm just going to do a couple of them because I want to show you a couple different things here. Um, Actually, you know what? I'm going to do this batch in bulk, and I'll show you the next thing on the next one. So, if instead of doing them all individually, I can do all of these Gusto fees by checking them off. And I clicked on the first one, and I shift clicked on the next one, and then I can go to edit and then tell it that this is Gusto and these are payroll fees and then apply and post, and boom, I just did 12 months of transactions all at once. So that's why I group them by bank description because then I can do these in chunks and then I could do all of the nets at the same time and all of the tax at the same time. But even better than that, I can also make rules out of these. So this one, Gusto Net, that's my net payroll. So that is my wages. So I'm going to change this to wages. And so I could do this one and then bulk add them like I showed you, but I can also create a rule and I can call this Gusto wages and it's coming out of my checking account, although maybe I pay it by credit card, so I could choose all bank accounts. And then I make sure that the description here, I actually change this to bank text, and I make sure that I got the bank. I actually usually copy my bank text and then create the rule so that it is an exact match. And you want enough to make it unique, but not so much it overrides and doesn't match anything else. Like if it has a transaction date or ID number, erase those. You just want the basics. I can test that out. It'll apply to 8 of them. I have my category as wages. I have my payee as Gusto. I'm actually going to erase everything in the memo because I don't want to replace the memo. I want to keep the existing memo. So I'm not going to override it. And then you have an option right here for auto add. And then since I don't have to keep tabs on these, I can go ahead and save it. Only do an auto add if you don't want to have eyes on it, meaning if you have to edit it every single time to put notes and memos on it, you wouldn't auto add. If you want to make sure it's happening month to month and you want to keep tabs on it and stay conscious of it and keep eyes on it, you don't auto add. But if it's something that's routine that you're just like, yeah, that's fine, I don't care, this will put it straight from the bank to the banking ledger and you don't even see it anymore. So, boom, they're gone. So, I'm going to do the same thing. This time it was smart enough to know that this is payroll taxes. So, I'll put in Gusto. I will grab the description and create a rule. And this is Gusto tax. I'll match that to the bank feed. Make sure that that says payroll taxes. Make sure that says Gusto
So can you
and
just
auto edit.
quickly explain to me why are you choosing bank text? Because you're also just copying over the bank text. So why are you choosing that drop down bank text?
The description is the sanitized AI version of the words, and I had us change this to full bank description, so all we have is bank text showing. But if you didn't have this check mark on, instead of mimicking what the bank text says, it would just come up with whatever it wants to come up with.
Ah, got it. Okay, but because you have that, it is literally mirroring what the bank is saying.
Yeah, so
Got
it's
it.
my OCD at work.
Got it.
Okay. So now I have insurance. Hiscox is my business insurance. And so I'm going to add my new vendor and put in Hiscox and save it. And I'm going to go ahead and just create the rule right off the bat. So when I'm doing quick and dirty, I'll do a lot of rule creation. When I'm really doing the books, I'll be a little bit more intentional about it. But again, the whole point right now is just getting her done. Okay, one-off charge to Grammarly. See if I can spell Grammarly right. Add Grammarly. And that's going to software and apps. I like that one. I'll just go ahead and post it. Here's my Johnson and Johnson legal and accounting firms. So I'll make Johnson and Johnson. I'm not a fan of skipping the payee. I like to have something in the payee. If it's somebody that I'm actually tracking and it's important, I will put in who it's to. But things like parking lots, I just put in parking. Restaurants, I just put in restaurants. I don't do all of that. Okay, we've got transfer to Chase in here. And so there is no Chase account in this. So that must be an owner draw. So it came up because the description said transfer to Chase, but I'm not going to make that a transfer. I want that to be an expense. The owner draw is fine, but I want to put in the owner's name. So I'm going to make it Marriott. Um,
Yeah, I'm glad I'm paying myself.
yeah. So this is your owner's pay.
Wonderful.
Oops. I'm actually going to put it down here.
And I'm glad you're giving this example because this is always where people get confused is where, the transfers to personal or it's transfer to personal, but for a reason. You're basically pulling out of your profit, your equity. So there is a transaction behind it. So thank you for
Yes.
sharing this one.
Yep. Okay. So all of the transfers to Chase, I'm going to turn all transfer to Chase into an owner draw. So I'm going to go ahead and create a rule. And I'm going to call this rule owner draw. And there it is to Martinez. Test it. It worked. And I'm going to actually change the memo this time. And so here, if I want it to still have the original, I can say owner's pay and then still keep the original memo. And save. Okay, 8 more down. All right, here's another transfer to personal. Okay, this one came in a little bit different. So watch what I'm going to do this time. Since I already made one owner draw rule, I don't need two. Here's what I can do is I can go to the rules and I'm going to open that up in a new tab so that I can keep it stay where I'm at. And in my rules, since I just made one as an owner draw to Marriott, I'm going to edit it and I'm going to change this to any. And I'm going to add another condition that the bank text can either say transfer to Chase or transfer to personal. So the any means it can do this one or it can do this one. And boom, there's another seven going to Marriott, and it's keeping the existing memo, so there's no loss of information. And when I go back to banking and refresh it, those are going to be gone too. Okay. Um, let's do WeWork. That is our building and property rent. Vendors are always money out, customers are money in. I tend not to use employee here. Even if it's an employee, I'll make a vendor card for the employee because when you make any expenses to an employee, you can't see them anywhere. So I make all my employees vendors. Okay, where was I? All right, so copy WeWork, create a rule, WeWork. Maybe it gets paid by credit card, so I'm gonna flip that to any of them. Bank text, WeWork, all that's good. Save. And I didn't erase the memo at this point. I'm just trying to get them done. All right. What else do we have? Texas Secretary of State. Okay, that was smart enough to go to business licenses, so I'm just going to post that one straight up. Um, That's money in. I'll talk about Fundbox in a minute. Bill pay to Designs by Jess. Okay, now this one, Designs by Jess for $2,500 from my checking account. She's going to need a 1099 for that. So I need to find out what Jess's name is. Well, I guess Designs by Jess is her company name, so I'm going to go with that. But the difference this time is I do need to come down here and say that this is track payments for 1099s, and I need to follow up and get her W-9 form and fill in her tax ID and her address and her email and all of that. So there'd be more work to do, but you would put this down on your notebook that, hey, for tax time, I need to follow up with this one. So advertising and marketing, this one is social media and actually designs by Jess. Let's make it website and post. Okay. And in my credit card, I have a couple more of these to do. Now, just for sake of time, I'm not going to go through. Oh, here's a Grammarly in another account. We had Grammarly in both accounts. So Grammarly would be a good one to go ahead and make a rule out of. And in this rule, instead of specifying the card, I would make sure it's all, and then that way it'll pick it up no matter where it gets pulled from. Okay. Oh, same with Hiscox. Those are in both of those. So when I made my rules, I, didn't really think about the fact that they could be coming from multiple accounts. So editing these rules and saying, hey, it can come from anywhere will allow me to grab more of these and get them all automatically entered. So we'll do that with this one. Hiscox is already on. It's probably not going to hit owner draw from a credit card, but I'm going to do it anyway. Gusto is just the checking account. Okay, so a couple little changes there. Let me refresh. Okay. Um, uh, Marriott, should I go through and whip through the rest of these too so
I
the
think you
reports are
could, or
right?
or we could just start looking at the financials because the concept is you're doing the work to get to, well, reconciliations and then reviewing the financials. So if you want, you could even grab the handout again, our workflow, and say ideally, if you've all cleared out, what is next, or we can do a quick clear. It's up to you.
I'm gonna just go ahead and do these so that when we look at um our P&L and balance sheet, we actually have something to go with. So everybody just give me a moment to continue working through these. So we've got Google.
As you're going through it, do you mind if I take it real quick and just kind of look at bring up that handout again, just so they know
Yeah.
where we're at? Okay, let me do that
Uh-huh.
because I think that'll be cool for them. So you keep on whipping away, and then I'm gonna actually bring this up real quick so that way you can see where we're at with this magic. Let me go ahead and but I lost you, so now okay, here we go. Let me go ahead and oh, I think it's because I think you need to stop sharing just for a moment.
Okay. So I'm gonna just do I'm gonna continue doing the expenses while Mariette shows you that stuff.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, just so we know where we're at. So, number one, Alicia is going to share her resources. This is obviously why I do collaborative experiences. I want our experts to share how you can learn more from them. So, she's going to share about her classes, her resources. Her and I actually have a really fun collaborative page where you can learn more about Royal Wise and, for example, her 3 hour class. So, this is her doing it quick and dirty, but we definitely want you to go deeper in your learning from QuickBooks with her. Also, the bonus that I provided was this handout. So at this point, if you're looking at my screen, we are going through complete the data process. So, and I loved, and she actually inspired me. I loved how she actually did it in the workflow that I truly do it. And I don't have it on here, where you actually do a quick little review of the settings. If there's anything ideally you have to turn on, knowing you're doing a quick and dirty catch up. Then she went in the chart of accounts. Then she did a quick review of the product and services. And then she actually took us to bank feeds. So just to be very clear, even though the guide I gave her was let's go straight into connecting banks and credit cards, I want y'all to know that what she did was actually what her and I truly do. We don't just go straight to bank feeds. There's probably a good maybe 10, 15 minutes before you even get to step one to make sure that the file is ready to do the process that Alicia just taught you. Then she's doing step one right now, and we're going to move into step two. So I just kind of wanted to share where we're at in the process.
Okay. So while you were gone, I went ahead and I got all of the routine expenses out, but there's some things here that I still want to show you. So one here is Starbucks, for example. Now, with restaurants, I don't put in Starbucks and Panda Express and McDonald's or Thai Noon, all the restaurants you go to. What I do is I just do a generic restaurant and put them all in one place. That way you have a collection of all of your restaurants. And the beautiful thing is that the bank description, the Starbucks, stays with it so that it's still in your memo. I also really like the option here under the gear for copy full bank description to memo. And then that way you can actually search and you have that information. So I wanted to point that out about restaurants right there.
Really quickly, Alicia, is the
Yeah.
reason why it stays with the memo because you have that option turned on? Is that
Yes.
why? Okay, that's
Although
important.
the bank description will always stay with it, but copying it to the memo means you can search on it and use it in the
Right.
reporting.
So then ultimately we should always have that checked off, it sounds
Yeah.
like, right?
hmm
And then just a question that applies to what you were doing. And the question is it best to just always select all accounts when creating rules?
Usually I do, yeah.
Okay.
Not if something is specifically if it's in this account, it's this, and if it's in this account, it's this, I turn it off. But otherwise, I will. Oh, actually, I can't make it. I'll put it on unless there's a specific. Now, Amazon, we have to watch out for Amazon because it could be a lot of different things, including personal. So, like this one's office supplies, in which case I would write in here what it actually is and post that. Maybe this one, this Amazon right here is actually personal. And so I would say Marriott, and this is an owner draw. So when you're looking at things like Amazon, you have to either log in or if it's Amazon for business, there is a integration transaction and you can actually connect your Amazon for business and then see what everything's for and then enter the transactions from there, which is really nice. Maybe this Amazon is supplies and materials. So the Amazon is one of those where you really do have to pay attention. The good news is that once you get started with that, as soon as I tell it that this is Amazon, then something new came up, a categorization history, and I can see all the different categories that I have used for it and then pick the one that it belongs in. So that way I can set them up for success that way. So one more, make sure so once I say Amazon, then categorization history shows up. I don't know why the owner draw did not show up here because I did an owner draw.
In categorization history, because it says this has been categorized to multiple accounts in the past, correct?
Yeah.
It's the, okay.
Yeah. Anytime you put the name in is when it will have a categorization history. Now
Okay.
with refunds, do not, please do not have an account called refunds. You put it back to what it was for. So, if I bought supplies and materials and I sent them back, I'm spending less on supplies and materials. I'm not making a category called refunds. So, I'm reducing my supplies and materials. Okay, this next one, Best Buy. This is a large amount of money. At Best Buy, they bought a camera, or I'm sorry, they bought a computer. And so we, instead of being an expense, because it's so much money, it's going to be a fixed asset instead. And so let me put in Best Buy so that I have the vendor. And what I'm going to do here is put in that it is a computer. Now, this is going to sit on my balance sheet and be depreciated every single year instead of expensing it because it's more than $2,500. Okay. So now the credit card is done. Now I'm back over to the checking account. And the three things that I see here is a bunch of deposits. So I've got money in from my customers. I'm going to do that last. The last thing I want to do here is Fundbox. So we got money from Fundbox. And so that is a loan. So I need to add Fundbox. And then I need to categorize this to a long-term. Doo-doo-doo. Did I pass it?
Yeah, you passed it. It was under liabilities. You went a little too fast. Go up a little bit more. I saw it up. There you go. Right there.
Okay. Long-term business loans. Okay, so that's my fund box. And so I'm going to post that one. And then I also have a payment to the loan. And so this is also going to go to Fundbox, but I can't just put it to the loan. I also need to split it to interest. And so to do that, what I can now do is go to this split right here. And so instead of the whole thing going to the loan, I can put in an interest expense, business loan interest, although usually I just do interest paid. And let's say that this is 36.98 going to the loan, and the rest of this is all interest. Oops, too much.
Lord, get a better loan.
Yeah. Okay. But maybe it's the first payment to the loan. So, so there's the balance. So now I've split it to the loan and to the interest, and I'll split and post. Okay, so that's the loan. I have another transfer from personal. So this is going to be from Mariette. This time, instead of owner draw, it's money in. So it's going to be an owner investment. So money going into the company is an owner investment and post. All right, now I'm left with my income. We've done all of the expenses for the year. Now it's time to do income. For these right here, I don't have the names of the people. And so I'm just going to do a quick and dirty deposit and not specify who it's to or what it's for. So I'm going to take those three and I'm going to edit it. I do want to at least have a generic customer. So maybe I'll say one-off customers. If it's retail, I'll say walk-up customers or counter customers or web customers, something like that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and put this straight to consulting income. Okay. Quick and dirty income, quick and dirty revenue.
question real quick there.
Yeah.
When you went ahead and started doing it, because it was money in, it assumed it was customer, or did you actually choose customer versus vendor right now? When you're
Because it
doing
was money in, because it was a deposit that was made.
right.
And
What if you're
I
actually
can
put,
see these over here under posted. So let's go grab them. Okay, so mobile deposit. My mobile deposit, a mobile deposit means I took a picture of a check with my phone.
yes,
So therefore it had to be a customer paying me money.
but what if you're having other money incoming in that's not customer? Does it just assume that we only gave you the option to add a customer versus adding a vendor?
If it was a refund, then I would have put it to a vendor, but because it's a mobile deposit, I know that I took a picture of it with my phone. Therefore, it's a check that I received.
Okay,
And so in this, I mean, it could have been a refund check that I got. That's true. I could be putting in
right.
bad data.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But you do have the option to choose customer versus vendor at that point, right? Or you don't? Don't you
You
have
do.
the
You
option? Oh,
do.
you do. Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. You still have that option.
Yeah.
Okay,
hmm Yeah,
great.
you can always choose which one it is.
Okay, great.
Okay. Now, for my last two, for Purdue and Tyson. Let's say for Purdue, instead of just making a deposit to sales, instead, I could also make a sales receipt out of it. And this is a real income transaction. We haven't been making real transactions. We've just been kind of dumping grounding it. And so I can make a sales receipt and let's put in Purdue. And this is a customer. So that part is all good. And now I have a choice. I could put this straight to sales income, or I could put it straight to consulting income. Whoops. So I could do that, but I could also use my product or service right here and say that this was a speaking engagement. And so now it's a sales receipt for Purdue for a speaking engagement, which is beautiful. And I can click post on that one. And what that one, let's actually look at what the difference between the two of these. So that one-off customer deposit that I just made was simply a generic deposit. This is not what you want to do in real life. This is just getting her done. The other one that we just created with the sales receipt is actually making a genuine customer transaction that will show up in Purdue's list of transactions. So this is a much, much better practice. And so if you have that information, you can go in and specify all of those. You can't, however, do products and services from the quick edit. So I would have to do each one of these individually, which might involve the customer. So putting in Purdue, putting in the, okay, this was a big one. So this was an outbreak mitigation. So I'll post that one.
Now, just
This
to be
one.
clear, when you're doing that, I'm getting that additional option to choose product and service. Is it do I because is it because I'm choosing the transaction type sales receipt as well? Is that why, or does it that's not
It's
necessary?
just it's on by default now.
Oh,
It's
okay,
new. And so what's nice is if I do if I do sales receipt, I have to do a product and service and vice versa.
okay, got it.
It doesn't
I won't be able to save it without that. In other words,
right.
got it.
Yeah. So it's a
Okay,
little
great.
bit automatic. I'm actually after them to rearrange these fields.
Got it.
Okay, so now we did those. Now, the other way of doing it, that all of that was cash basis. If we're doing accrual basis, then we would have an invoice and then take a payment against the invoice. And so I just want to grab a couple of these and do that and show how these match instead. So if I did want to know more information about this, what I could do is go to create an invoice, dismiss all of the windows. We're going to add Tyson. And then this is where I genuinely get to use my products and services. So this was a speaking engagement. I can put in the information about it. the price was $6,800. And even if I just save and close this, I don't need to make the payment for it because one of the things that's really cool is that if you have open invoices, I just refreshed the screen. All right, why isn't that doing it? Let me figure out what I did wrong. Oh, I didn't do the right date, 2/22. There we go. So now that the date range is right, I can see that here's that it's recognizing that I have an open invoice and going ahead and saying, well, hey, do you want to pay this invoice? So if I match this, look at what this actually did. It created a payment for me. And I can see here that there's an online banking matched so that it matched the banking feed. So that's what it looks like when you do it right.
I love that. And by the way, you need to know how to do that because when I said in the beginning, if this was a business that wanted to know what their outstanding invoices are as of the end of the year, because those are still pending, right? So they have collections on those invoices. Catch up accounting doesn't mean you ignore what's still coming to them, right? And that could be a cash basis or an accrual basis. They're like, I have 10 invoices coming to me that I went ahead and invoiced in December, and that money's going to flow in January. You don't just ignore that. Part of catch up accounting, at least for me, would be okay, let's make sure to put in those year end invoices so that way we can see on your balance sheet you have accounts receivable coming in. So that's something that I would do. So I'm glad you mentioned and shared that, Alicia.
Yeah. And I want to show you what it looks like if I go to Tyson because I did some invoices and I did just some blind deposits. It's really important that this right here says all plus deposits. If you just have this under all transactions, you don't see those deposits. So best practice is always that. And now I can see the different ways that this came in. Here's an invoice with a payment. Beautiful. These just straight up deposits. There's no product and service. I can't run product and service reports. All the money's going to the right place. It's all going to consulting income, but I don't get to pick which product it's for. All
Very
right.
good. Thank you for sharing that.
So,
And I don't know if you're going to show this, probably not, but just to the same point that we would, ideally make sure that our businesses also have outstanding invoices on the balance sheet. We'd also make sure they have their outstanding bills on the balance sheet. So if they do
mhm.
have vendors that they owe and they have balances for, I would also say let's enter those bills in at the end of the year. So then when you're looking at your balance sheet, you see your accounts receivable and you see your accounts payable. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, so let me go ahead just and do I'll put in an extra invoice and an extra bill. So I'm adding an invoice for Tyson right here. And let me go in and add a bill as well so that when I run the reports you can see those. So let's see, who am I going to do a bill for? Let's do it for my lawyer. Okay, so Johnson and Johnson, my lawyer. So this will be legal fees, and I owe them because of all those crisis mitigations. I'm going to put $10,000. Okay. So I just left an open bill in there so that we have that data when we do the reports. Okay. So on our banking feed, we have it all in. If this would be a good time for you to work with the customer and go find out what all their open invoices are and all their open bills and get those in there for the year end so that you have the full picture of what's going on. Okay. Now, the next part of this is reconciling the bank accounts. And uh, when here, I am on the relay checking, and I go to the bank register, and here I can now see all of the transactions that have come in. I can see that some of these wound up future dated. I think heard that there were some future dated things in there, so that's fine, but that's what that line is right there. When I look at this column right here, if it has a green box, it means it has a match on the banking feed. Now, for us, everything will. But in real life, you will see things here that somebody put in manually. Maybe they categorized a receipt, maybe there was a transfer. But if there's something here that doesn't have a green box, it's probably not on the bank statement. And so it's probably user error. The ones that have plus signs are because those came in through rules. They were automatically added. No human being actually looked at those to verify them. So it's worth you as a professional looking. Now, when it's time to reconcile, if this was real life, you would be doing this every single month. And the first reconciliation, usually you have to make an adjustment. Remember, I talked about the opening balance equity entry. So when I'm setting up a new file, I always do the first reconciliations myself because half of them don't work until I adjust it. I don't have a real statement for this account, so I can't use the new brand new reconcile tool. I have to do it the traditional way, which is putting in the ending balance. Normally, if I would be doing this month by month by month by month, but because I just did a whole year at once and it's all off of the banking feed, I can totally take a shortcut and just reconcile to the end of the year to the December 31st balance because I know it's right.
Just
Because,
FYI for or like for us to know, if you were doing it the month by month, which is what we're going to do going forward, would you just drag and drop the statement right there? Is that what
yeah.
you would do? Oh,
hmm
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There's a brand new reconciliation experience that it doesn't work with all statements, but every time you upload it, either it will work or they will scan it and find out why it doesn't work and they'll take it and remap the field so that it works in the future. So it's a new feature that's just really getting built out right now.
Cool.
When you do your reconciliation, your goal is to get a zero right. Your first goal is to get a zero right here. Your second goal is to look through the transactions and make sure that there's no stray transactions that are unchecked off. And in this case, for what we're doing, there's not going to be any, but in real life, you don't leave the ones that don't match. You're like, why is that there? I actually have a 3 hour reconciling class where I teach you how to clean up reconciliations and use reconciliations as a troubleshooting and cleanup tool in QuickBooks. So that's a separate reconciliation class. In our case, down and dirty, off the bank feed, we know what the balance is for the end of the year. It's going to be zero because we just pulled in what's on the banking statement. So there's nowhere to go. It just is what it is. But I'm a stickler for reconciling all of my accounts. I also like reconciling in real life. I will not just reconcile the checking, savings, and credit cards. I will also reconcile sales tax, payroll tax, loans, liabilities, lines of credit. I basically reconcile the whole entire balance sheet except for the fixed assets when as far as I'm concerned, those are the property of the accountant. Okay. I don't know where I got that balance. It's obviously not right. Um, I'm just gonna fake it till I make it for the purpose of this demo.
Yes, that's fine. Just because we're gonna get to the financials. Um, Kate, Alicia, I did the same thing for Kate. So if you want to go over, that's fine. Like this is your time. I just want to check on you. Are you okay to go over a little bit because we're gonna just quickly show the financials, or do you have a
Oh
hard
my
stop
God.
right now? One.
Yeah, no, I can keep going. I didn't realize how far along we were. Is it I
Yeah,
need
yeah. I mean, I don't want you
10
to rush
minutes.
because everyone can watch the replay, but I just wanted to make sure you were okay with the
Oh,
timing.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So
Yep.
yeah, keep going. Don't worry. And then, the replay is going to be available to everyone.
Okay. So after I've done the reconciliation, the next thing that we do is run our reports. And this is, you can either invite the accountant in as a user or you can provide these reports. But basically, here is my profit and loss report and what that looks like. And now here's the all of our hard work. We've got consulting, income, crisis management, the money we spent on advertising, our building and property rent. So all the transactions that we put in are all looking really beautiful and nice. And here's our net income. One thing that I will do, two different ways I will play with this is I will put in columns and look at it by month And then that way, or I think Kate did it by quarter, but this is kind of nice because I can look for patterns and, well, wait, how come I had no revenue in this month? Is that right? Or why did I have no rent in December? What's wrong with this picture? And then use that to make sure that I've got all the right things in all the right places.
Yes, absolutely love that. That's one of my favorite ways to do a quick, again, even though we are doing catch up, we're still doing some clearly important analysis at the end, and like being able to pull it up by month is a quick way to look at trends, or actually target trends, right? Because they're going to really pop out at you when you see, like, for example, a month that doesn't have any income or no
Right.
expenses. Hmm.
Now, and this is where cash and accrual comes in. So this is accrual based for 126,000, but if it's cash based, you're going to see a smaller number because that last invoice that we wrote is has not been paid. So it doesn't show up in the cash reports. Okay, so you also have to know which way they're filing their taxes. Is it cash or is it accrual? And then a balance sheet, same deal. So the balance sheet is where all the funds are living. And so here's the checking account balance. Here's the money that is on the invoice that has not been paid. Here's the fixed asset that we have. And then we would take a depreciation entry on it, accounts payable, credit cards, the loan. Um, Actually, let's put this down to the end of the year because I think that loan had a payment against it. Yep, there's the loan with the payment against it. Here's the owner draws. And so that's how all of that looks. And again, make it cash based and then it doesn't include the open bills. So that's the difference on those. Now, once you have these reports, if you want to send them to the accountant, there's a couple different ways that you can do it. There's a print button right here. You can also export it to a PDF or you can export it to Excel and then provide those to the accountant user. Another super important one to run is your accounts receivable aging summary and your accounts payable aging summary. Make sure these are accurate. Obviously, for us, they are, but usually I run this, and I mean usually, and there's this giant list of 91 and overs of invoices and bills that they just forgot about or have been paid and something's wrong. And that's a sign that you need a big cleanup. So I always will double check these.
So what is going to be the best way? Of course, we have our collaborative page where I send them there, and then from there they click through and they see all your magic. But what is the best way for them to know about, like, what's coming up next? What's coming up for
Sure.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, so permit me a minute or two
Yes.
of
No
self.
rushing. Like I said, this is your time.
Okay. We are beginning to offer our classes in Spanish. It is an AI translation. It is me speaking, pero no hablo español. But all of our classes as we release them are going to have Spanish versions. So I wanted to let you know about that. Our platform is called the Royal Wise Owls at royalwise.com. And we have classes going from basic level all the way up through advanced QuickBooks. And whoops, it is CPE authorized. So you get CPE for everything you do with us. We are in the process right now of revamping our entire curriculum to fit the new interface. We started in September. It's going to take us through June. If you look at all of those, you're like, oh my God, I want to take all of them. Alicia, this was awesome. Consider becoming a member, and we have monthly and annual memberships. When you join the community, you actually get automatic free enrollment into all of the classes. So membership absolutely pays for itself versus buying all of those classes individually. Plus, you get two members meetings every month, and we have a community forum where you can go in and ask questions anytime. And then there's also a coaching membership, which is all of that plus a standing 1 hour meeting with me every single month so that we can do your books together. And so when you want that extra handholding and accounting therapy,
So just to be
then
clear, so that's a private meeting with you as part of
hmm
the coaching membership?
yep,
Okay, so everything in the community membership, plus you get a private one-on-one with Alicia.
yes.
Wow. Okay. So that's really, I mean, it's good for bookkeepers, but that's amazing for business owners because essentially they do their books with you. So it's more like a do alongside Alicia, would you say?
Yeah. And a lot of people will actually use that to either get their bookkeeping done or to have me just take a look and put everything in the right bucket and fix anything that's wrong. So I have a
Very
lot of
cool.
business owners using that. Even if they have a regular bookkeeper, there's still value.
I love that.
Yeah, and I work
Another
collaboratively with the bookkeepers. I'm not competition.
Yes, I love that. One thing I did want to ask, in regards to the Spanish classes, will you
Hmm.
get the Spanish version when you get the English version, or are you getting
Yeah.
two versions?
Yeah. It's all the Spanish is right underneath the English. So
So you'll
when
get that with your English version. Oh,
Mhm.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yep. So
Very
we're not
cool.
teaching them in Spanish, but after we're taking the recordings and we're translating the recordings.
Okay, that's
Um,
really cool.
by either fall of next year or in 2027, we'll have a whole Spanish section, and you can just watch everything in Spanish.
Oh my gosh, so cool. Okay,
We also, I'm the host of the unofficial QuickBooks Accountants podcast, and so definitely you can find it on Spotify or Amazon or Apple Podcasts, wherever you go to get your podcasts. I have a weekly QuickBooks session. I have a YouTube channel. I have books on Amazon as well. I have a beginner's book and converting from desktop to online. So we have books as well, and that's that.
let's talk about this. Do you want to share the collaborative special pricing you give
Oh
to
yeah.
them? Yeah.
Because you are in Marriott's community, you actually get half off your first month subscription. So if you join the subscription program, then that should take you to, I think, the community, or actually, yeah. So it takes you to the community membership, and then you can get your first month for half off.
That is
Or
awesome.
I think that's just on the monthly.
For the monthly community. Okay.
Hmm.
So that's the one where basically they get everything other than the coach. If they chose coaching instead, that's the one-on-one with you,
Yes.
right? Okay,
Hmm.
perfect. So this will give them half off the first month of the full community membership. I love
Yes.
that.
Let's make it easy, Mariette. So the
Yeah.
ones that I just listed are all down there. So like the banking center class, the cleanup for tax time class, a
Yes.
lot of those are there, and you can just click on them and go straight to
Yeah,
those
because those are
classes.
my favorites. So I asked you to put my favorites in there.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that. Yeah, that'll take you straight to where you need to go. If not, again, as Alicia showed you, then you're just going to click on it, go find the QuickBooks training. Let's say, for example, you're a bookkeeper, and then from there you can preview your bookkeeper courses, and then we start scrolling down and see everything,
Hmm.
right? Okay,
Yep.
perfect. I love it. Okay, just want them to be able to get to you fast. Other than that, I am going to just kind of wrap us up. But before we do, Alicia, any last minute thoughts or shares you want? Of course, a huge thank you to you for doing this. But anything else you want to leave with the community?
This was really fun. In all my years, I've never taken this approach to one of these webinars, and it was really nice consolidating and condensing everything into like the essential nuggets of what it takes to get the books done. So thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for accepting the challenge. So, in addition to the resources I'm going to provide, but I'm also bringing everything into my community. Why? Because well, it's easier for us to just connect straight on my community. It's free. Also, that's where you're going to be able to connect with Alicia and Kate and other collaborative partners. So, for example, as I mentioned, let's say, for example, you do want to connect with Alicia, you do want to join her Royal Wise community, but you have a question for her. Well, you can just go right into my community and you can find her under the members and you can ask her a question. Again, be mindful. Most of my collaborative partners have a lot going on. They're busy people, so just give them a little bit of time to respond back. But also, the reason why I want you to come to my community is because that's where all of the resources are going to be. That's where I'm going to put the replays. That's where I'm going to put all of her offers that she has. Everything is going to be there. So, when in doubt, if you're trying to find something about any of my partners, including Kate and Alicia that were part of the series, it will always be in the community. So you don't have to dig around because I just want to have one central hub for everything. And that's just how we're going to continue here at Master Books. Again, we love to give you cool things like free resources, guides, and of course, like for me, my biggest gratitude and pleasure and honor is to bring in partners like Alicia. But again, when in doubt, if you want to know where everything's at, just join us in the community because that's where everything's going to live. Don't forget about the guide that we gave you. Again, now you can really use that guide to either go back and recreate your books, or if you're a bookkeeping, accounting, and tax professional, obviously you're going to see there's a lot going on here. So you can go much deeper using this handout that Alicia and I were inspired to, go much deeper into this replay. But you can use it as a guide. We're done, everyone. We did it. This is the best part for me. The best part is when we can accomplish these things. So we did it. We brought in Kate to get fresh with FreshBooks. We brought in Alicia to soar with QuickBooks. Of course, she soars because she's an outlet and she soars everywhere. So we soared with Alicia, and now everyone, you can continue on using these resources and hopefully just really tapping into the magic that we bring here at Master Books. Because again, as I've always shared, this is a community affair. This is a community experience. Me, Charlotte, Team MYDB, we don't do this alone. We do this with all of you. So as always, thank you everyone for being here. Alicia, thank you for having this experience with us. So thank you all for staying over, and we'll see you in our next event. Thank you, everyone.